I'm Kat and I'm currently travelling all over Europe and beyond in my self-built camper van. It's been a pretty wild adventure, and last autumn it led us to the Pyrenees. So here's a couple of places that we fell in love with. They're not exactly hidden gems, they're pretty popular spots, but I wanted to give you an idea of what to expect and how they look this time of year. So we started our journey heading towards the Lac de Uz loop hike, and even the rest stops en route blew us away. The mountains were laced with oranges and yellows, littering the edges of the roads, rivers and reservoirs. So first we went to recce the car park for the hike and whether or not it would be a good place to stay the night, and sadly there were a lot of signs prohibiting overnight parking, but already at the foot of the hike we were spoilt for scenery. I couldn't help but take a dip in the icy cold lake. It was freezing but exhilarating, and so we followed the easy path around before deciding to head a little bit further down the road to park for the night. Although it was just a lay-by of a quiet road in the trees, we had our own private waterfall, and again, I couldn't help myself. I'd say that although this probably was the more challenging hike that we did, it's still very accessible. We met a lot of families with pretty young children along the way. The path is easy to follow, and a mile or so in, we were faced with a fork in the path and a choice of direction. We decided to stay right into the trees, and it definitely paid off. I'd highly recommend doing it this way, and I'll show you why later. From there, it was just a lot of walking through peaceful woodland, looking out for markers for reassurance until we topped out and were treated to this beautiful view, which just kept getting better and better. We eventually reached the Refuge hut and took some shelter for some snacks before continuing on to the other lakes, and I think it got even windier. But the views were stunning, so I'll take it. And this is why I'd recommend doing the hike the way that we did, as otherwise you'd have this amazing view to your back the whole way doing it in reverse. As we descended back into the valley, we did so with the melody of my favourite sound, the ringing of friendly alpine cowbells. And as the light faded and I attempted to make some new friends, we carried on into the view with the last of the light until we made it back to the fork and back to the van. Now, next up we're heading to the famous Cirque de Gavarnie, but I want to show you a fun stop en route first. But before that, now this wouldn't be a van life video without a little bit of toilet talk. So there definitely was public toilets in some of the car parks where we started our hikes, definitely the Cirque de Gavarnie, but as we're in a camper van, we are relatively self-sufficient. We have a super convenient, compact, lightweight compost toilet by Chirolo. So if you're looking for something similar where you can poo with a view, then this is for you. We've tried a few different toilet solutions while traveling in the van, from going in the wild, packing out, traveling around public toilets, and finally getting a toilet in the van. The Wondergo slots away really small and tidy under our bed, and I promise that it doesn't smell at all until you get it out and open it up, and even then it's not that bad. I've heard horror stories from some of our friends with chemical toilets. It works really simply, solids in one container, liquids in the front, and we buy pet sawdust along our travels to sprinkle over the solids after each use. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little too graphic, but these are just the realities of living on the road, so if you've ever wondered, now you know. For more information, head over to chirolo.com or jump over to their YouTube channel, where they have loads of videos from taking your compact toilet camping to how to empty it responsibly. Now back to the hiking. Okay, so our stop off on the way to Gavarnie was in the town of Lourdes to drink the famous healing waters. The legend goes that a girl was led to the grotto by a woman who appeared to her and told her to drink and bathe in the water, and since then 70 miracles have been recorded here, and people seem to come from all over to visit and drink the water. People literally bring multiple containers to take away as much as possible, so of course we had to try it. Like a miracle?
Chalky. It does.
I can feel the miracles happening.
As we drove closer to Gavarnie, the landscapes grew more and more impressive, and we stayed in a beautiful air on the mountain. It was a pretty crisp cold night, so I stayed out and tried to take some photos of the stars.
And then in the morning we drove back into the town to start the hike. It was definitely the easiest and most accessible hike that we did. You can see the waterfall practically straight away, and arguably it's one of the best views seeing it from a distance, so if you just want to see it, you don't even really need to do the walk at all, but it is worth it. It's a beautiful autumn day out, walking over stone bridges and through crisp crunchy leaves, admiring the towering views the whole way, and you can actually walk all the way to the waterfall if you want. It does get a little steeper and trickier if you want to physically get underneath it like us, but it was cool to be right in the bowl, surrounded by towering rock faces, and not many other people bothered to walk this far. While on the hike, I also noticed that there were loads of other footpaths leading to different places, so the next day while Rid worked and rested, I decided to go on a little solo mission to explore one of these less explored paths. The colours were so pretty, and I just kept going and going and going and going and going and going with no real destination, and when I reached this spot I decided this would be my summit. I could see a refuge hut on the top of the mountain above, so I guess that's the real destination, but I admired the views and called it a day and headed back down. We took a drive to explore some more and find a new park up, and came across this really cool paved path around the mountain, so of course we got our longboards out and went for a little play. But we decided to head back a little lower down and stayed in probably the prettiest air I've ever seen, and had a peaceful, relaxing day. I made some cinnamon buns and we just enjoyed the colourful landscapes. We took a walk back down into the village, said hey to some donkeys, and then hit the road and headed south towards Spain. This next stop was actually a bit of a spontaneous one, honestly, because we needed to do laundry, and then I saw this cool loop walk which had a terrifying walkway. And I'm awful with heights, so I don't know why I thought this would be a good idea. And after the trauma of that, the rest of the walk was actually lovely, and there were some pretty cool, creepy old bunkers. And then our final walk in the Pyrenees was to see a really pretty waterfall nearby. It was another beautifully quiet autumn walk through crunchy woodland, and the waterfall was perfection. It had a beautiful rainbow, and you know me, I had to take a little dip, but it was Baltic, and the air temperature was freezing cold too, so I was a bit of a chicken and basically just had a waterfall spray shower. But it was well worth the short walk, and pretty much concludes our mini autumn adventure in the Pyrenees. There are so many more beautiful places to discover. I'm sure we barely touched the surface, and yeah, I'm a bit of a stranger to these longer form vlog style videos. I haven't made anything like this since our Scotland series back when we travelled part-time in Rids of Avaro, but I have also filmed a few of our adventures through northern Spain last autumn and winter, including a hot spring mission to see how many we could find in the wild or for free, so let me know if you want to see any of that. But I guess that's it for now, so bye!